Hey, so tonight I wanted to talk again on what kind of a world are we leaving for the next generation. And more than just in the economy and the financial world, but in our dietary world and the soil and the earth itself. So I know our health is either made or it is broken by what we eat. And there are so many things that we can do to give back to the earth through our kitchen and the scraps and the leftover food products that we mostly throw away. But they could go back into make compost, they can go into bone broth, all kinds of things that we can use our kitchen scraps for. And that way we are giving back to the earth. And we, in doing this and exposing our children to it, we are showing them how to give back to the earth. And taking it one step further, showing them how, in turn, when we plant the seeds or the little plants in those areas where we had thrown the compost or the food scraps, how the plants are so big and beautiful because they have a lot more of the nourishment that they need. So when my daughter had her baby 2 years ago, she could not breastfeed her, and so she asked me to find a recipe that was for a formula, a homemade formula, and she asked me to do a little bit of research and find a certain book. So the formula is excellent, as we know about formulas. It had really high quality ingredients, and her baby thrived on that formula. I wished I would have known about it when I was having my children, but it's okay. We can do it now. So this book is called Nourishing Traditions by Sally Fallon. I'm going to show you a picture. You see that? And the part I want to read is where she talks about stocks or broth. And she says, properly prepared stocks are extremely nutritious, containing the minerals of bone, cartilage, marrow, and vegetables as electrolytes. A form that is easy to assimilate, acidic wine or vinegar added during the cooking helps to draw minerals, particularly calcium, magnesium, and potassium, into the broth. Dr. Francis Pottinger, author of the famous cat studies, as well as articles on the benefits of gelatin in broth, taught that the stock pot was the most important piece of equipment to have in one's kitchen. But she goes on to talk a lot about the broth and the different things to put in it. But when you make broth and it has been made with like the organic bones and that, the broth itself, after you strain it, it will gel in the refrigerator. And that is the natural form of gelatin. That helps you have healthy teeth, healthy bones. It helps your hair, your skin. It's a natural form of collagen. It's good for the digestive system and the intestines. There's just a myriad of things that it really helps in the body. But one thing that I read in this book is she talks about putting the chicken feet in the broth. And so we had a friend that raised some chickens, and when he was butchering them, he boiled the feet and packaged them for me. So every time I do a batch of broth, I throw in a few chicken feet. And the gelatin, it gels so pretty. I haven't seen it gel quite like that without the chicken feet. And she said the reason is there's so much nutrients in those little claws or whatever it is. But there's a lot of things like that I had no idea. And I would just throw them away. I'm like, gross, who wants to eat chicken feet? But you don't eat the chicken feet. You just get the nutrients out, and then you strain all the solid matter out of the broth. But I want to show you my broth and how it compares to some boughten broth. So I went to the store and I got the most expensive organic broth I could find. And I got equal amounts as to what I had of my own homemade broth. Now I'm going to switch the camera around here and show you Okay, so this right here, this little package right here, it's probably, no, 3 tablespoons. It was organic bone broth. Okay, so this right here was the very exact same amount as both of these before they were freeze dried. So see that? This has all those nutrients, the gelatin, all the stuff in it. The only thing that's removed is the moisture. And this right here, where it's freeze dried, it will last for several years like this. And if it's in a fully silver package, the foil package, it will last well over 25 years. But I was so shocked at this because this is literally seasonings. There's nothing to it. Look at that. It just shakes down to nothing. And this is what we are spending our money on. When we go to the grocery stores, we spend our money on water with seasoning in it. And this right here, it's so full of nutrients that it's so satisfying and soothing. Anyway, just this is one of the things, you know, how we're leaving a better world for the next generation is by switching up the broth that we use. And it's super easy. It is very easy to make. You just save the bones when you're cooking. If you get a chicken, a rotisserie chicken from Costco or wherever, or you can even just go to the grocery store, get some bones from the butcher, throw them in your pan. Actually, you brown them in the oven first. Cook them on 250 or 300 for about 3 hours till the marrow comes out. And then you throw them in your pan, cover them with water. And I save all kinds of scraps. I save onion scraps. I save celery, peppers, green beans, anything like that. I don't do spinach or lettuce or cabbage because it'll make it taste a little bit too strong. And I don't know how the broth would turn out if I did put those in it. But most of the other vegetables, any kind of squashes, well, not any kind. The summer squashes are fine. I don't do potatoes. I don't do the winter squashes. But the main vegetables that you would make soup with, I save all the pieces and scraps and use those in the broth. And it turns out so good. And another thing with this broth is I can take and put some in my coffee. And I don't even notice that it's there. But it is very satisfying and I stay satiated longer than if I just had plain coffee. Okay, one other item I want to share is this is my breakfast casserole. Okay, it has potatoes, sausage, eggs, cheese, peppers, flour, milk, and seasoning. Now with this casserole, every bit of this stuff I freeze dried. The only thing that I did not freeze dry was the flour and the seasoning. I even freeze dried the milk. And these peppers were organically grown by a friend here. And the cheese came from our local dairy. It was raw cheese. The potatoes were locally grown. The sausage was locally sourced. And this casserole, all I do is I pour water over it. I let it set for probably about 10 or 15 minutes. And pour it into a casserole dish. Bake it. And it is so good. You know, you cannot compare the flavors and the taste of tasteless food, flavorless food. Oh, sorry, that was loud. To our good, wholesome, nutritious food. And with the food system and the sourcing of our food, so much of the issues with schools and children and all that can be linked directly to their diet. So it is such a vital part of our lives to look into our diet and do things that are going to promote health and longevity and mental stability. Top one, mental stability. So with that, we will see you tomorrow for another video.